Hello and welcome to Were You Not Entertained? I'm Daniel.
I'm Rachel.
And I'm James.
And we are going to be discussing a fan suggestion, which is Hitting the Apex.
Yeah.
For any of you that don't know, it is a MotoGP documentary. And if you don't know what MotoGP is, it's Motorcycle Grand Prix.
That's about as much as I knew whenever I got into this.
Which is good.
Yeah. So you have an entirely outside perspective here because, I've played like a couple of laps of the MotoGP video game on Xbox.
Uh-huh.
And
realize that it's too tough to continue playing.
Yeah. It just, you're constantly leaning forward or leaning backwards or turning side to side, and it's a lot more stressful on your thumbs than you'd expect.
Yeah, it reminds me of the Olympics game.
Oh God, we broke ourselves on that game. Heads up, anytime you have to pull out a spoon, the video game's too hard.
Yeah, exactly. It's just stop.
Anyway.
This is not about video games. This is about MotoGP.
I knew you were going to lose your mind on the tangent.
She's already lost it.
Yeah. This is definitely a little outside of our wheelhouse. We also typically don't do a whole lot of documentaries. Have we ever covered any documentary before?
No, this is our first documentary.
Yeah. I watch a ridiculous amount of documentaries when it comes to history and science documentaries, but
yeah, we always seem to miss the documentaries for the awards, but you do watch a lot of documentaries.
Yeah, so I'm very familiar with the format, and
yeah.
Based off a documentary factor, it's very well done.
Yes, I think Brad Pitt's narration is fantastic. The music in this, it keeps you on the edge of your seat. I mean, like everything in this movie keeps you on the edge of your seat.
Right. Mm-hmm. It does. Yeah, I really appreciate the footage that they were able to use in this.
Yeah.
You get a lot of time on the tracks, and you get to kind of see what they really have to do in order to make these motorcycles go around the corner very fast.
With the amount of footage that they have, since most of these are documented racers, and these racers are incredibly famous, so they have their cameras in their face all the time.
Right.
They were, and then with a very, very competent visual effects team, they were able to stitch together different footage and add effects to certain shots to make them just absolutely gorgeous and slow them down to show how close the riders are leaning towards the pavement at 220 miles an hour.
Right.
Very, very well done documentary. Also, like you were saying a second ago, the way that they created a narrative out of what could have been a little bit more disparate events was genius. Having no idea who any of these people were, like the death of Marco Simoncelli.
Simoncelli.
Sure, that guy.
Yeah.
That was a big moment in the movie for me because that wasn't something that I was waiting for that shoe to drop. In fact, he was on this meteoric rise.
Yes,
not
you'll
mediocre. Yeah. And it seemed as though he had just figured out how to still deliver the excellence that he was known for without being as aggressive and dangerous on the road. And it's at that moment that he's tragically cut out from under him. So that was definitely a oh my God moment for me, which I feel like you guys didn't necessarily have because you are much more into this world.
I mean, we had it when it happened.
Yeah.
Or I had it when it happened.
Exactly. I remember watching this live, and it was wow. Super Siege was just coming up, and he was such an interesting character because he didn't really behave the same way as the rest of them. Mm-hmm. He didn't mind kind of being a little bit of a jackass in the media. He wasn't afraid of saying his opinion, especially when he's up against people like Jorge Lorenzo, who was already so much further ahead in his career.
Yeah.
But yes, I can remember watching that, and nobody expected him to come back on the bike.
It kind of felt like a Dale Earnhardt thing for me, where he was kind of this guy who pushes the edges of what's safe, and a really loud and popular personality off the track, and then like the crash that shakes up the entire community whenever it happens because of what an
Senna
impact.
is another good example of that.
Yeah.
You have these people that are, iconic for their time in this
mythic,
sport.
Yeah.
And freak accidents, just boop, and they're gone. And it wakes a lot of people up. It shakes a lot of people up. Yeah, it is unfortunately a reality of these kinds of motorsports. They happen. People do die. I mean, that is why it's so impressive to see the people that are great go out and do what they do. Because you can look at somebody and go, well, they just don't think about it. And that's true. You can't be the greatest at what you do if what you do could cause your death, if you constantly worry about dying.
Yeah, these guys are like test pilots.
Yeah.
Right. They are. And I'm a little sad that we only get the few seconds of Colin Edwards when all he gets to talk about is Simoncelli. It was pretty sad because Colin Edwards is one of my favorite riders. He's a Texan, and he's just one of those super gregarious, very funny, outgoing guys. So I would have liked to see him a little bit more. But this was supposed to just be focusing on the biggest names at the time.
Right.
So, and we had talked about this briefly earlier, but James, you'd never heard of Valentino Rossi. And I kind of gasped because to me, it's one of those, how have you never heard of Valentino Rossi? But I totally understand that it's a very isolated world.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you have, but I wouldn't be shocked if I was like, you've never heard of Isaac Asimov or Philip K. Dick. And, those are huge names in science fiction writing. But if you don't read science fiction, then you probably don't know their names unless you happen to have seen a movie based off their work. But yeah, no, I just have never really stuck my toe in. Like, I'm sure I might have seen Valentino Rossi's name on one of Daniel's shirts, because I know he wears a lot of motorcycle shirts. I don't. That's how out of the loop I am on it. It's almost Greek to me. But I was actually, that's one thing I definitely wanted to make sure I mentioned on the episode here is Valentino Rossi continually impressed me throughout this, and I was like, every sport should have an ambassador for their sport like him, because he just had almost the perfect or at least was portrayed as having nearly the perfect personality for it. He was really good. He kind of reminded me of like a Peyton Manning.
He has come a long way.
Yeah.
I say that he's been doing it for so long that he's gotten used to it. Some of the newer people that come in with this, constant media attention and the pressure,
like Casey Stoner,
don't necessarily handle it so well. I mean, like Casey Stoner. It's not what he signed up for, right? He wanted to race, and he was really good at racing. He didn't want to be a press tool, which is essentially what he was.
He didn't want to be a brand.
Right. Yeah.
He wanted to be a racer. To me, he's a lot like Kimi Räikkönen in the sense of, I don't want to do the press. I just want to do the race.
Who's Kimi Räikkönen?
He's a Formula 1 driver.
Formula 1 racer.
Okay. Also know nothing about that.
Yeah. Sorry. But as far as like a Grand Prix type sport, I think Formula 1 would be one of the more similar ones. And a lot of teams let Kimi get away without doing a lot of press, and MotoGP is not the same way. It's a much smaller community, and unfortunately for Casey Stoner, it involved tons of media and tons of appearances.
Yeah. Well, and it's not just about like him as a brand. You said as a brand. For some of the riders, they are that famous, that popular, that is essentially what they do. But the other part of that is that they're ambassadors for the motorcycles that they ride. Right. The bikes that are on the track are mostly from factory teams. So you have your Hondas, you have your Suzukis and your Yamahas, which is, when you look at that and you're like, oh wow, I can go buy one of these. I could go buy a bike. Okay, so you can't go buy this $1 million bike that they're racing, but you can buy, we're going to call it the civilian version.
Yeah, and looking at those things, I have no interest in that. Those bikes looked huge.
The 1000 series are, yeah.
Those look like very large machines.
They're not huge, but they're big, and they're small.
Right. As far as how they look, it really varies depending on which rider you're looking at. Because if you look at Rossi on one of these bikes, it doesn't look that small. It looks like it fits him pretty well. Maybe he's a little tall. And then, yes, you look at Danny Pedrosa, and oh my God, that's a small child on that motorcycle.
Well, yeah. I mean, they said he's 5'2" in the documentary.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I was taking that into account too. And then like bikes that people I've known, like Daniel, have owned. And so, but I was just looking at them compared to somebody like, I assumed Valentino Rossi was probably close to 5'10", 6 foot based off of what I saw in the show.
Yeah.
And I don't know, but just average. Maybe a little above average, and he's still they're still big bikes, man. I have no interest in ever riding anything like that.
Yeah. They are the 1000 series motorcycles they are much bigger.
Not for everyone.
No, they're not for everyone. You have to ride them. Like my bikes, I can throw around. I've got the 600. So
I have a question.
Yeah.
Yes.
In MotoGP, is there like any restrictions to the bikes, or do they just not go faster because everybody dies? Is it the track that slows them down, or is it the actual there's a limit on horsepower or something like that?
There's not a limit on horsepower per se, but it's just like most other racing, even dare I say, even NASCAR. They have rules about what you can and can't do.
Yeah.
And so usually what's limiting the bikes at this point, as far as like top speed and things, is the track.
Right.
What limits them as far as what they can put down, like how fast they can come out of a corner and be full throttle, is really just kind of science and trickery of what the mechanics can do.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and I mean, I definitely understand some of that, because one of the things that I was happy about was that they race at Laguna Seca.
They used to, yeah.
Yeah, they used to be at Laguna Seca.
When they showed that on there, I was like, oh man, I have played that course on video games so many times. I can literally tell you what turn that is.
Yeah.
I know that track from like the back of my hand. And that helped pull me in, because I do have a little bit of racing information, but it's all like GT racing mostly.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Doing Gran Turismo.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, Gran Turismo, but I've also watched a bunch of like JPG or
right.
JGP.
Very interesting. Yeah, so as a non-fan, I'm so interested in your opinion on Danny Pedrosa.
Okay, yeah, I was going to ask you, is there anything that you guys wanted to ask somebody who had no idea what they're talking about and would find it humorous to get some weird opinion on.
General opinion of all these.
Yeah,
guys,
I was gonna say let's go rider by rider.
Okay,
and I guess we can start with Dani Pedrosa because that's who she threw out first. So.
Sorry, I jumped.
Sure. So I don't know. I wouldn't have had a whole lot of. When I first saw him, I thought he looked like Ben Shapiro, which I found very funny. But like, I ended up not really having a whole lot of opinion about him because most of the time he was portrayed as somebody who was not really happy with the fact that other riders were being extremely aggressive. Until near the end, when he broke his collarbone and then got surgery and got back on the bike like the next day. So you're
thinking of Jorge Lorenzo.
Oh, was that... Okay.
So Lorenzo's the one in blue for most of the movie.
Yeah,
He's
but didn't
Valentino Rossi's
Pedrosa
teammate.
Also have like the same thing happen at the same time? Okay.
Yes.
Similarly.
He broke his collarbone at the same race.
So the second time that Jorge Lorenzo broke his collarbone after that surgery, Dani Pedrosa wrecked and broke his collarbone.
Okay. Yeah, and I swear he was also like Lorenzo, he was inspired by Lorenzo getting back on the bike, and so didn't he in a matter of days or something like that?
No, Pedrosa is... So, yeah, Dani Pedrosa's story is that he got picked out of a crowd and then...
Oh, boy.
Sorry. Hey.
Let's start at the beginning.
It's super short. All right. He got picked out of a crowd and he just like meteored his way up through it. And when he finally got to MotoGP, they assumed that he wouldn't be able to ride the bike because of how big it is and how small he is.
Mm-hmm.
And so at the end of his last year in 250s, he broke both of his ankles in a crash. And so like 2 months after that, he's back up and on the bike, and then he starts MotoGP, and consistently almost every single year he has a major break of some sort. Ankle, wrist, collarbones.
He's the one that they were saying is so close to winning the championship like numerous times, but he's always had something that has happened.
Yeah, he's always had an injury every year.
Well, an injury or a mechanical failure of the bike or whatever. It's always been something.
When it comes to him, I didn't have a whole lot of an opinion on him. Like, I didn't feel like he was... Does he have some sort of stigma about him in the industry or anything? Because I don't know. I didn't take a whole lot away from Dani Pedrosa.
Pedrosa's really just a fan favorite.
Oh, okay. Wow, really? I wouldn't have expected that.
Oh, yeah. He's the one that when Simoncelli knocked him off the bike and he broke his collarbone, Simoncelli got death threats from Spain because people love Dani Pedrosa.
Oh, okay. That's right.
Oh, my gosh. People love Dani Pedrosa.
That's so weird. I can see, by the way, what you're saying about Ben Shapiro. So, yeah, you're thinking Jorge Lorenzo. With the Ben Shapiro, how he kind of looks like Ben Shapiro. You're thinking Jorge Lorenzo.
No,
who's constantly pissed off about people bumping into him, or
I'm talking about what he looks like. I'm definitely talking Dani Pedrosa.
Oh, okay.
With the dark hair and the big thick eyebrows.
That's all.
That's all of them. So,
well, fair enough. But anyway. That doesn't matter.
That's not the point
whatsoever. That was a tangent.
The point is,
yeah, Marco Simoncelli. He, it's hard to speak ill of the dead, but he kind of seemed like kind of a jackass. He definitely wouldn't have been the kind of rider I would have been a fan of if I was, at least from this 2020 hindsight perspective. But of course, that doesn't mean I ever wish anything bad to happen to people. Sure. But, he was that kind of aggressive rider is not something that I feel like when you're going 220 miles an hour, not killing other people is also important, along with not dying.
Yeah.
So,
Sure.
Absolutely.
So
And
they're
if you don't
all
respect that,
they
then
all
that's a
have
real
the
problem.
the waggle of the finger. You bumped into me. You're too aggressive. Okay,
Mhm.
but they've all done that. Every one of them,
Right.
especially as they start out. That is
Yeah.
how they all start out. So
It's like an entire like a whole series of Tim Duncans.
it's just a wheel that comes round. That's all
Yeah.
it is. It just keeps going round and round. Um, it's like, yes, I think as they mature, as they get in more accidents, they start to realize that they need to be more careful. But when you're coming from, in some cases, coming from uh, a 400cc bike, and then you're getting on a 900cc bike, or you're going from a 600 to a 1000, even from the 250 to the 600. These are huge jumps in
Right.
power and size, and so they don't necessarily behave the way you're used to.
Right. Takes some getting used to.
Yeah, it's not like they go, hey, we're going to put you in MotoGP, put you on a 1000cc motorcycle. Here, why don't you just borrow it and tool around on it, get used to it. They go, okay, so you've made it. Congratulations. We have a test day. So here's your day to test the bike.
Yeah, it's like fighter jets. You're not going to get to just like take it on a cruise run on your day off.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. You're going to fight the thing the whole way.
Exactly.
Mhm.
So that's kind of...
Also, these are like 18-year-old, 22-year-old kids. I mean,
yeah.
who in the world is the least likely person to think they're going to die? A 22-year-old dude who rides 1000cc motorcycles at 220 miles an hour.
Right.
So, yeah, they've got to probably have a little bit of an invincibility complex to be able to pull that off in any kind of reasonable fashion.
Right.
You just don't think about it.
Well, and what about Marquez? What was your opinion on Marc Marquez?
That is exact what I just said. Is completely summed up by him. The new kid on the block who hasn't figured out that he's going to kill everybody if he doesn't rein it in a little. Tons of talent, but hopefully a little wisdom will make him a better rider.
It has.
Okay.
This movie's from 2015, by the way.
All right. So we get like okay. So there's a little bit more knowledge as to how these things played out.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
He has matured.
This is back when Valentino Rossi was a phenomenon for being able to ride at 35 and be competitive.
This is back when Valentino Rossi was still in his 30s.
He
is he still riding?
40.
Yes.
Still competitive.
Really? Still hitting the podium every once in a while?
He had a bad season last year.
Yeah,
I think he podiumed a couple times the season before.
And he had I think he had a podium last year. It's the bike has been really unfortunate.
I think he was going to have a win and he washed out.
Yes, he was doing really well at Coda.
It wasn't Coda, but yeah, it's hard to remember the individual races. I've seen so damn many of them. But yeah, no, he still races. If you get him on a competitive bike, he is absolutely competitive.
Wow.
Like
nice.
you don't just blow by a Valentino Rossi and think he's not going to pass you back.
Yeah.
I mean, and they did say that he's adaptable. He's completely changed to the new style of riding.
He has completely changed his riding style. It is amazing to watch like old videos and like how Rossi they used to race compared to how they race now. And all that you have to learn in that amount of time to be able to still adapt and keep up. Yeah, he's phenomenal.
Yeah.
He's a phenomenal racer.
Aside from Rossi, Marquez is the only other one still racing out of those three. Or out of this group of 6, which is something I never imagined would be happening.
Well, Jorge just retired.
And I didn't see it coming.
I did.
I didn't. I liked Jorge Lorenzo all right. I thought he was okay.
Yeah.
Whenever whenever he was kind of in his, it was him who was having a spat with
Simoncelli,
right?
Yeah.
Yes.
And Simoncelli was like, "Oh, I just don't think what you said was fair or whatever." And everybody was laughing, or it was like, "Oh, I'm going to go to jail," and everybody laughed.
Yeah.
Wasn't it Lorenzo who was like, "Wait, no, that wasn't."
That was Jorge Lorenzo.
Okay. Yeah, no, I appreciated that, where it's like, the reason why I'm not laughing because this is really dangerous.
Right. Yeah.
This is not like a joking matter. This is how people die. But,
right.
Yep. And that's
Lorenzo. That's the wiser Lorenzo.
mm-hmm.
Lorenzo didn't used to be that way.
No, not a lot of
funny
them
how
start.
funny how dudes in their 20s get
they
smarter.
All wag their finger in each other's faces for bumping you, clipping you, taking you out, whatever. But they all have done it. They've all done it.
Yeah.
They just don't. When it affects them, they don't recognize the fact that the person that did it to them is younger and just has to learn like they did. And that's all there is to it.
Sure.
It just takes time. Yeah, they took you out of a race. It sucks. I've seen you make mistakes and wipe out 4 people. That's racing. That's how it goes. It's not fair. It's just high speed on 2 wheels.
No, and they're not all super polite. I think definitely Pedrosa is the polite one of the bunch because he's little and any contact is going to be a broken bone for him.
Right.
So he is a very careful rider.
Yeah. That is one little dude I don't want to see thrown over the handlebars.
Oh.
No, yeah.
He dive like 4 seconds.
He high-sided a lot. He high-sided a lot.
Yeah.
Unfortunately for him, which is that's kind of what dashed his. I mean, they're all so everybody that they talked about except for Simoncelli won. Yeah, so they're all championship winners.
Nice.
Yes.
So, each and every one of them. Not in MotoGP, but they are all championship winners.
Varying levels. I think Lorenzo's got 5 championships. Pedrosa's got 3. Marquez has 8 now,
I think,
and Rossi's got 9.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Simoncelli had 1.
Yep. But that's across all classes.
Yeah.
It's not just MotoGP.
So we're talking about the best of the best here.
Clearly.
Yeah. So
I do love the fact too that there's a variety, because a lot of the times you have that one person who will just dominate the sport, and maybe have one rival.
Yeah.
For a period of time, and these definitely seem like they go back and forth, and part of that has to do with the volatility of it.
Yeah,
the fact that somebody can go down and break something and be out of it super fast.
We did have 5 straight years of Rossi championships.
Yeah, but that kind of wasn't that preceding the narrative of this. They kind of touch on that to begin with, but
and then directly after the narrative of this, we have 5 Marc Marquez championships.
Gotcha.
So it does occasionally.
So this is the snapshot in the middle of when it was a nice.
Jorge Lorenzo won one in the middle of Marquez's.
Yeah, 2015.
So they weren't straight. It wasn't consecutive wins.
He's won 2016 till now. Anyways, so I actually had a couple of fan questions for you, James and Daniel.
Okay.
If you wanted to, who was your favorite?
Meaning,
I mean, just personality, riding style. Who did
Valentino Rossi.
There you go. Yeah.
I mean, he seems like the kind of rider who's not only a great ambassador for the sport, but he's good enough to, like you said, be competitive in his 40s now. And it was impressive him doing it in his 30s in the movie that's 5 years old.
Right.
Yes.
So yeah, no, I definitely liked him the most. Casey Stoner was pretty close to that too. But that's because I'm also more of that person. If I was doing something cool like that at the top level, I probably wouldn't want to be in the
spotlight.
Cameras. Yeah, in front of the cameras all the time. So,
right.
What about you guys?
What? Oh, my favorite?
Yeah. What's yours? We were asked who was your fave.
My favorite is Marc Marquez.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh man.
I've been rooting for Marc Marquez for a while. Since he made his MotoGP debut, but I had seen him in Moto 2.
He's got a goofy grin, man.
Dude, he is from everything that I've seen. I haven't actually like talked to him personally. I have seen him. He seems like a very genuinely nice person.
Huh. Nice.
So maybe he's not when he's on a motorcycle, but like for his fans and things. I mean, I watched him give a kid his jacket.
Wow.
Yeah,
those aren't cheap.
That's not, no, they're not cheap, and that's not normal for a lot of the riders. Like, yeah, they do nice things for fans. You know, they'll sign their hats and things like that. But giving away your own article of clothing is not. It's not typical.
Yeah.
I'll say.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I really like his racing style. You are correct about the over aggressiveness, and I've seen that. I've seen him be in first place and wreck, and then go through and literally run into every person that he could on his way back up. And that's horrible. I know that he could do better. It's panic, and there's a lot of things that go into it. But I've also seen him do the same thing where he wrecked out, ended up at the bottom, and came back without hitting people.
Yeah.
Which is not, I mean, in MotoGP, that's not easy. These bikes are fast. If you drop your bike, I mean, your race usually is done.
Because a 30-second lead is unrecoverable.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, I really like him. There's times that I don't like Valentino Rossi, but I've always liked Valentino Rossi, but there's just times where I'm like, damn you, Valentino.
I have a very small snapshot. It's called This Entire Movie.
Fair enough.
That is what I know of Valentino Rossi or any of these people. So
he is so charming.
I know more about Brad
so
Pitt than I do any of the people in this.
Yeah,
Yes.
This movie was a fantastic portrayal of Valentino Rossi because he just looks like the hero of a nation.
Mm-hmm.
He's happy and he's friendly, and he's got his own school where he's building these Italian racers up. And yeah, it's a very good picture of him.
Yeah, it is. And like I said, I think he's been in the sport long enough to know how to behave, especially in the media. But he's always been a good racer, and he's always fought for what's right, even if you don't necessarily agree with it. He's more often than not got the sport in mind. He usually tries to be a good competitor. You know, if he does something, he is one to come and apologize, where some people don't.
More
like
genuinely now than used to.
Yes,
he was not apologizing to Stoner in a genuine fashion.
I think he was, but not like not in a I'm sorry for what happened to you, but hey bud, you know, I made a mistake, so this is me saying that I made a mistake. Not I'm actually sorry that this happened, and
this is me doing something for the media to see.
Well, it's not for the media. It's
okay. Just to break in real quick,
Yeah.
you guys can probably go on about MotoGP for an hour and a half. Hey, Rachel, who was your favorite? Who's your favorite?
Oh, Danny Pedrosa.
Oh, okay.
Hands
You're a
down.
Danny fan.
I've been a huge Danny fan since like 2004. But I also really like Valentino Rossi.
Yeah.
He's another one
Surprise.
that, yeah, you followed his career for so long. He's great. And I feel like next year I'm going to be an Alex Marquez fan.
Next year, you're going to be an Alex.
Yeah,
you're currently an Alex Marquez fan.
Well, right, but he's going to get his first MotoGP season. That's not what we're here to talk about.
No, it's not.
We're here to talk about.
We could talk about a lot of other racers. We could talk about Nicky Hayden. We could talk about,
poor Nicky.
We could talk about
that would be very boring for me because they weren't in this movie.
Because you wouldn't,
He was in there for a few seconds.
He was, You saw Nicky Hayden
the Kentucky kid
for a minute, but he is also, unfortunately, dead.
Oh, God.
Yeah, he got hit on a bicycle. He was out bicycling in Italy, I think.
Yeah,
I think it was Italy.
He was in Italy.
Really?
He got hit and died.
He got hit by a car.
That's irony.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, it is.
That when he's going 30 miles an hour on a bicycle is when he gets killed, not 220 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Oh
he had retired, so it's not even like he made it through the entire dangerous part.
That's horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah. No. Yep.
So yeah, she is a big Danny fan.
The little samurai.
Yep.
He has had so many injuries, and he gets up every single time, and he gets back on that bike, and
it's like the Duracell battery.
Yeah, he's not deterred.
That's
what he wants.
What is it? Timex takes a
licking and keeps on ticking. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, he's had to overcome quite a few injuries, and I feel like people kind of underplay how good he actually is because he didn't win any MotoGP championships.
Yeah.
But he got inducted into the Hall of Legends.
Yeah, he was and he was always consistent until the last year, which is kind of when he was having issues with the bike. It's obviously very different for him with as little as he weighs compared to some of the others. But he's a test rider now. It's something he still loves doing, but your body can only take so much. You don't want to be 50 and not able to walk because you just wouldn't give up in your 20s.
Right.
Right. And there's some things that once they break so many times, they're just not going to ever be right.
Yeah,
again.
They just don't heal.
Well, that's his collarbone. It spontaneously broke without any pressure because there's no blood flow anymore.
Jesus.
So, but yes. So yeah, he's had some major injuries. Same with Lorenzo. He retired because he broke his back last year.
Yeah, this sport is clearly not for the faint of heart, and they make sure that you're aware of that in this movie.
Yes,
which I also appreciate.
Do. And did you find it more exciting than other documentaries?
No, sorry.
That's okay. That was just a fan question. You can have.
Yeah, I thought it was good, and I thought it was well narrated, and it was done it was produced incredibly well.
Yes,
it just any time that you're spanning multiple seasons like that, you're not gonna have this. Or at least it's extremely rare that you're going to have this kind of 3-act narrative that you would get from a movie. And a lot of documentaries can they get me excited whenever they're dealing with a much shorter period of time. So you can have the final battle kind of motif to it.
Right.
Yes.
And this spread out over a period of time. It was definitely more informative, and I think that it works for the narrative that they presented better. But I don't necessarily feel like it made the whole very as exciting as like a smaller time frame could be.
Yeah, I could see that. I think that as not a MotoGP fan and not really having kind of the background of the people that you're watching, it probably makes it a little less interesting.
Yeah. I don't have
really
much
enjoyed
context.
Right. Yeah, well, and because you're following 6 people as well.
Right.
So if it was like just one person and, they followed him through a Cinderella story, then...
Yeah, I mean, if you had picked 9 baseball players from the best 9 baseball players from the early 90s and did a documentary about them for 4 years, I'd probably be super into that, but none of y'all would care.
Right.
Well, right. And it's also, with Mark Neal, the director, he's done multiple MotoGP films before.
Mm-hmm.
His first was Faster, and that focused on Max Biaggi and Valentino Rossi in 1 year of the championship. Excuse me, in their huge fight. And then Fastest was completely focused on Lorenzo and Rossi in 2011. 2011.
Mm-hmm.
So this was kind of the first one he's done with a large group and a large time span. I guess the doctor, the Kentucky Kid, and the tornado, that's another one that's a little bit bigger time span. But yeah, it's a lot of characters to kind of pull in.
It was still good, though. It was one of those things. Yes, it was one of those things that I probably would not have watched otherwise, because it's not in my sphere of influence of something that I pay attention to.
Right.
But having it focus, having a spotlight put on and checking it out, I could absolutely see this being one of those kind of movies that I would have popped on for like 10 minutes and then turned off while I was surfing through stuff. Through streaming services or something. Mm-hmm. But once I had stuck with it for a little while and got about 30 minutes in, I was like, okay, this is really good. Enjoyed one. I genuinely wanted to know, how the seasons would turn out and what travesties were going to happen, and had no idea that I was going to have. I mean, obviously it's MotoGP. There's definitely the chances for death, but to have somebody as big as Simoncelli die like that was very surprising. And so right. it had a good, by then I was hook, line, and sinker. Yeah, I'm finishing this. Yeah,
fair enough.
Well, good.
It was compelling. So I was.
It was compelling. I think it was done really well.
Yeah.
No matter what the subject matter was.
Agreed.
I think that the narration and the I guess the storyboard, we'll call it, and the directing was actually done really well.
Yeah. Oh, I like it. And I mean, this is probably like my 6th or 7th time watching it.
Holy moly.
And I still, I tear up every time that you see Simoncelli laying there on track without his helmet, because that's just crushing. And then I get Wish You Were Here stuck in my head when they start playing that. And
she's actually got that helmet.
I do have that helmet.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm that big a fan. So
I feel like there's some like revealing of y'all's souls on this podcast.
Yeah, this is one of the first ones. I've been just like super excited. I've been thinking about doing this podcast since we decided to watch it, and I've been really excited.
So now everybody knows another interest. Movies and MotoGP.
Oh my God, yes.
Obviously.
For 2 out of the 3.
For 2 out of the 3.
Yeah.
All right. Well, then I do think that just about wraps up Hitting the Apex. Was there anything else you guys wanted to touch on before we got off?
No, I don't think so. Any more fan questions or anything?
No, I'll stop myself.
Okay. Fair enough.
All right. Well, thank you guys for joining us. Hopefully you enjoyed our coverage of Hitting the Apex. If you did, make sure you go online and like and subscribe. And please join us next time on Were You Not Entertained?